Hey, what's up, everyone? You're currently tuned into TBD on the live stream. We're on KCSB FM 91.9 in Santa Barbara and netnetradio.com out of Tijuana. Today, Lietoc and I welcome a reformed noise boy, Mr. American Dreams, Jordan Reyes, to the show. So, Jordan, why did you go clean shaven? It's been 3 years. Did your dog still recognize you after the shave?
Wow, that's a great question. I can't believe that's the first question you asked me. But it's really good that it is. I My dog did recognize me. I think it was the smell because we have a beagle, and well, not necessarily because we have a beagle, but we
Yeah.
do have a beagle, and beagles have a finely tuned sense of smell.
hmm
Um, but I will say that like when you are clean shaven, the sense of touch that you feel on your face and head
Yeah.
is, especially after it's been a long time, is
Yeah.
like extreme. And like touching my dog's fur with my face had to have been like one of the most psychedelic experiences I've had in a long time. Just like feeling, you know, a closeness
Yeah.
and like um kind of an overwhelming texture at first. It's kind
Yeah.
of like you can also get that when you put your head down in a pillow
Yeah.
when you go to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And I would say that showering also fits the bill. But the thing about that is that often when you are shaving, you are already in the shower. And
Yeah.
so as you shave, you are sort of warming up to that,
Yeah. To the sensory overload type
sense.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you don't really get like the full blown like experience of being like, this new thing is now um touching me,
Yeah.
that you would like with, my dog Ripley or with the pillow
Yeah.
or trying to think. I think those are the only like cool and fun things I've had touch my face. Wind is great. I just went for a run before this
Yeah, that's sick.
and
I saw on
I
your Twitter as well that you said you started running again or something after a while. It's been a while since you ran.
Wow.
yeah, I had to take a lot of time off from running because of a back injury and
Mm.
also a knee injury.
Okay.
But running was kind of like the first thing I thought that I was good at.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, when I was like 14 or 15, I had this weird experience where I shot up from like 5 feet to 6 feet in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I was really bad at sports
hmm
before that, but and always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. But then like I realized I could run like pretty fast, and I like made varsity team.
hmm
And
You went varsity
so
as like a sophomore for cross country.
you did?
No, you did. I was asking.
Oh, freshman.
Oh,
Uh,
wow, that is phenomenal.
it was pretty cool. Yeah. And it like gave me quite a bit of confidence, I would say. And so there is like a bit of my identity and value
hmm
that is tied to the activity of running. And so, though there are forms of exercise I could do when I could not run or lift,
Yeah.
there wasn't I don't know, I guess like the feeling that I was full, that I
Yeah.
was whole,
hmm
like doing those activities.
hmm
But now that I'm running, although like I'm running pretty slow at this point, it still feels like I'm in touch with like my core essence
Yeah, that's
while
awesome.
doing that.
Almost.
And also running is an activity I do that like sort of parallels and nourishes my creative activities.
Yeah.
So like when I'm running, for instance, I will be writing in my head, or I will be like sort of thinking through parts of music, or just like, solving problems
hmm
for the label or something else. I think it's because it's kind of like when you are going to sleep, or if you're in like a sensory deprivation tank where your body is allowed to focus on other things because it is not, going through the
Yeah.
tasks
Mm-hmm.
of being in a flesh casing.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like something happens and like your mind gets kind of freed up, and it when you run, you are like putting your body through this stress. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the opposite of like a sensory deprivation thing, but you
Yeah.
get into this like motion and rhythm that like frees things.
Yeah.
So it's like total zen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like the last like what is it, like maybe like a week or two, when since you've like shaved your face and your head, and then since you started running again, has just been like totally psychedelic. Like I love that for you. Like who needs like psychedelics when you can just start running again and shave your face,
No, I'll take
Yeah.
that.
clear-headed those ways.
I
So
think a lot of people would still take the psychedelics.
yeah.
I don't do any drugs or drink, so I have to get by in other ways.
Yeah, I think
but
that's great.
I
That's
do
awesome.
engage in like psychedelic practices for sure, even though most of them are not like chemically induced.
Yeah,
I guess they are chemically induced, but just not through an external
taking
thing.
an external substance or something.
Would you say that running a label is a bit of a psychedelic endeavor at the moment in 2021?
I would say that aspects of running a label can have psychedelic components, but I would like mail order can be psychedelic because it is, this extreme tedium
Yeah.
that you have to do.
Uh-huh.
And it also like, it's one of these tests like running that can get you to a state of like almost almost a hypnagogic state. Like
Yes.
you're at this precipice between waking life and sleep. But also a lot of times I will be like listening to an audiobook or something while I'm doing that. So if you have those kind of other things that grasp your attention while doing the mail order, then you're going to lose out. It's not going to get psychedelic. But if you don't have anything, if your mind is just doing the task and then sort of slipping away, then you can get there. But I would say like the actual running of a label is probably one of the least psychedelic things other than mail order, because so much of it is just being caught up in administrative work, accounting, royalties, responding to people, making sure like the designer files for something have been submitted correctly.
Yeah.
And it's all this like it's basically a series of disruptions, because every day, for instance, I think something is not every day I wake up and I think I'm going to do one thing, and every day I do something completely different. And it's because like any sort of business that is a series of collaborations, like people do things that are unexpected. And so when, for instance, the press is telling me like, oh, this designer file doesn't have things converted to outline in the text, it's like, then I got to do that. And so it's like this series of things that continuously take you out of like,
that zen that
flow state.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is funny, but yeah, that's an interesting question. But yeah, I would say it's really not psychedelic.
Unless you're doing mail order, unless you're packing records in some cardboard boxes and you're totally zenned out.
You're doing mail order or like some other sort of like tedious task that doesn't require very much attention, then you can get there.
Yeah. So since we're already on like the topic of your label American Dreams, so you started that in 2019. And yet like many people we have talked to, like from Force Management to M Sage to Brad Rose, this is not your first imprint. Can you talk about the label's precursor, American Damage, and what you wanted to carry forward with American Dreams?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, American Damage wasn't my first either.
Oh, really?
There was a label I co-ran with my friend Robert Manis called Moniker Records.
Oh, wow.
And I was part of that label from 2015 to 2018. But then we went and did our own things. We're still good friends. But yeah, Robert was basically like punk, and
Mhm.
I came out of like punk and hardcore, but I got into like industrial noise, experimental music, and that was kind of my bread and butter, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And so American Damage was kind of like my attempt to have some stake in like noise culture, I guess. And
Yeah.
what is the basis of noise culture? Tapes.
Yeah.
It's like if the world were going to be completely eradicated, like if civilization were going to be eradicated and the only thing left was like the husks of skyscrapers and like noisers, like currency would be noise tapes.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
that's how
Honestly,
important tapes
as a
are.
as a tangent to this, I have looked at prices of Throbbing Gristle tapes, and they continue along with Cabaret Voltaire to go up. Invest in industrial records now more than ever.
Yeah.
True.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think a lot of like those subgenres with a lot of scarcity,
Mhm.
like, you know, black metal is like another good example,
Mhm.
um, can really go for outrageous prices. And that's sort of the allure for a lot of it. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of people who are into those kinds of music and collecting those kinds of music specifically, like really are concerned with the valuation of those things.
Mhm.
And anyway, yeah, so American Damage was like my attempt to do that, and it was also like the name of my roving record store. So I would like
Okay.
take it on the road on tour with me, and I would like, you know, basically have these pop-up shops every time that I
That's so
played a
sick.
show, with like a couple hundred titles. So I'd have like 1,500, 2,000 records like in my car, and I would tour alone. So every night I would like take all these records out, set them up, try and sell the best I could.
Mhm.
And so, and then put them back in the car. It was like a lot of work for one person, but I was really trying to like make a living off of whatever activities I was doing. I was freelancing a lot for like Bandcamp, Resident Advisor, Chicago
Mhm.
Reader,
Yeah.
and then doing a lot of touring, doing a lot of releasing music, distroing stuff. And I could not guarantee I would make any money from some of these shows, but
Yeah.
I knew that if I like had this record store there, that people would buy typically would buy at least a couple $100s of records. So that would like, I wouldn't have to worry about getting to the next town, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mhm.
Um, and So it was like kind of pairing this distro record store thing with tapes, and frankly, like American Damage, like most of the time that I spent doing that was in the pursuit of creating and curating this like distribution entity. But you know, it's not the most like fun thing.
Mhm.
And eventually I did want to like put more of my time, effort, my personhood
Yeah.
into something that would like, not necessarily commission new works, but would release music of myself and other people. And to be honest, like the first release came out close, my album, because no one else would release it. And I sent it to a bunch of labels, and a lot of them liked it.
Mhm.
But it's just friggin' hard to get someone to pick up your record.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm gonna see whether this new pressing plant in town can give me a good deal on this thing. And they gave me a great deal. And then I put it out, and then, John and I from Forest Management have been talking, and then I got his. And then, like, during the pandemic, things just started really speeding up. And I put out like 12 records last year. And last year I put out like 12 records or something.
Wow,
maybe. Yeah.
Including the Pale Spring reissue. I know that was one of the more kind of noteworthy ones.
That was the beginning of 2021.
Oh, that's right.
okay.
Even. Oh no.
That was February. I think we released it. This year it's going to be like 20 something records.
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
Include tapes and the black metal imprint. It's probably like 50 releases.
Wow, dude,
Wow.
that's insane. All within the
And-
span of like 2 years. I just think that's wild. What were you saying, Maddie?
One question I have, though, is because you're talking about records, especially with vinyl. How have you been able to press those in such a timely manner and get that, kind of consistently out?
That's a great question. And I am very lucky, first and foremost. We have a pressing plant in town called Smash Plastic. And, they are a huge part of what's allowed me to run the label as I do. I can't speak highly enough of them.
Yeah.
The level of communication that we have is unparalleled compared to my experiences with other pressing plants. And the love that they have for local businesses and artists is really something.
Yeah.
They are so they have one press right now. They just got a second one in that they're building, or they're like, putting in, and I think it's going to get finished July 21st. But they pretty much, like, in this time of extreme lack of bandwidth for these pressing plants to take on more, they basically stopped taking on new clients. And so if you weren't in, you're not going to be doing a record through them anytime soon. And that will change once the second press is in place,
and they can up their production.
They just have been really dedicated to allowing people who work with them, especially in Chicago, to get records out. And another thing too is I have these deadlines that I have to meet through my distributor, Red Eye, and I have to get my product to Red Eye 5 weeks before the street date. So I try and I try and have the vinyl done by the time I announce the record. So this is usually 2 months before the street date. I try to have the vinyl in hand. It's pretty hard right now. I haven't been able to do it because of, like, things being delayed so much. But I'm still hitting my deadlines. But Smash Plastic has been so good that even when I'm just like, and I know it's annoying, but I'll be like, hey, can you, like, really do me a favor and, like, get this on the press this week? And they'll help me out. And that's
awesome.
A godsend in a lot of situations. Yeah. So that's the secret sauce. Yeah. It's, community building, and really, like I said, Smash Plastic has been really looking out for Chicago musicians and labels. So without them, it would not be doable.
Yeah, I think that's super sick that they're, like, prioritizing the local community, and, like, actually, like, communicating with you guys. Like, that's sick. Like, that's the kind of, I feel like they have their business model down. Like, that's just how you got to do it to keep people coming back, That's cool.
Yeah. They're special. They're special.
So, album releases from Forest Management to Clear Your Save included soap bars and craft whistles, respectively. So what's compelled the decision to go beyond the standard recording artifact?
I I would say that I have a pretty bad collector impulse, or at least I have had one
Yeah.
at some point. These days, I pretty much will just go for reissues rather than like, first pressings or something. But I do really like the experience of transcending the traditional album.
Yeah.
And the the things like art prints, or John wanted the lavender soap, Claire thought that she was going to, she made this album in collaboration with Danny Boral, and Danny really did a great job making those whistles, which are amazing. And Victoria Shen made those playable jackets.
Yeah.
And those were madness. But I don't want to limit myself or artists to what's been done before. I want to craft new experiences. I don't want people to have like a typical listening experience if that's not what the artist wants to do. In some circumstances, that is what the artist wants. And that's great. And that's, generally how I listen to music. But then there are things that really do benefit from having non-auditory components to it. I'm trying to think, like, the easiest example, of course, is like liner notes.
Yeah.
Liner notes can really add a lot to a release. And I love liner notes. That's one reason why I get reissues so frequently these days, is because a lot of times
the liner notes are so good.
Like Light in the Attic is going to make this incredible.
Yep.
And you're going to learn so much. And then you're going to have like 73 things to Google because you are reading all these names you've never encountered before. And that's so inspiring to me.
Yeah.
That dedication and detail of something. And it's a testament to like what sort of effort and energy has gone into those recordings.
Yeah.
And recordings are only half the story with music. There's like, when I was studying English, we were always talking about like the sort of literary criticism where you critique a book in the absence of its author. Like, you don't use any biographical information. You don't like consider the intent of the author. You just look at this thing.
Yeah.
And then there are other people who do like to consider the author's intent. And I'm one of the latter. I like to know what the author is about. I like to know what they were intending. I want to know everything about what was going on, what they had for breakfast. I want to know where they live. And that is the sort of experience that I want to replicate with music as well, if possible. Some people are just not interested in that sort of thing, and that's fine too. It has to be a distillation of the essence of the artist to be I guess respectful, really.
Yeah. No.
Of vision.
I feel exactly the same way. Like, I feel like I like to know everything about the artist, and I think that everything that the artist did is sick. And so when you see like something that's like super crafted like that, I don't know, it's just amazing. I get super into it. You know what I'm saying? It just like enhances the listening experience that much more. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah, I love that. I'm trying to think of like any noteworthy things that I've picked up. There's always been like in noise or in black metal, there's like, or like Thou, for instance, one of Thou's earliest like releases was like a 2 or 3 tape album, and it came with like berries. My friend Chris Donaldson released it on his label Drugged Consciousness or Drugged Conscience. He's a Florida dude. And he's straight edge, but yeah, his label was Drugged Conscience.
That's it.
And they did like that first merchandise record back in whenever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Thou release, it's like came in like a really nice package. Like
Yeah.
Chris straight up like went and picked these very specific berries that the band wanted to be in this
That
package.
is
And
so
like,
sick.
that to me, I remember when we were doing a trade of some stuff when I was living in Miami, he like gave this to me. I'm like, dude, like this is friggin' nuts.
Yeah.
You're a bad man. How you did 100 of these? And he was like, yeah, it took me like weeks to
Yeah.
like get all the berries that I
Mhm.
needed for that.
They mold?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did they
I don't know.
last? How'd they ship,
It.
dude?
He
Like,
must have dried them or something.
yeah,
Mm.
put them in dehydrator or something like that. Who's
Yeah.
doing a really good job at like, I guess, creating that like experience, Maddie, is Never Content, dude. Like, what I think of
Mm.
immediately is the Zachary Paul tape that Noah put out, and it came with the Valerian tea. Like, you just, it's like you got to sit down and like listen to this tape.
The Coyote
Yeah,
with
the
the
amethyst.
little
Yeah,
stone.
the little piece of amethyst. It's just like that much sicker because it's like you have this like physical thing, or like with the tea, it's like you have to sip this tea to like really get into the vibe of like listening to this record.
I'll go back
So
even further. It was the Stars of the Lid album they did with it's pre-Tired Sounds, the 1998 one, and the album art for that. They worked with that artist, and so it's very particular that the art kind of tracks the movements of that piece, the two suites.
oh
Oh
wow, that's
wow.
sick.
And it was the artist who had done the cover for REM's Green, and that is a really particular cover itself, where like if you look at it long enough and then you close your eyes, you get a negative image in your head of a grass. There's like a hidden
Wow,
core on that
really?
cover. So yeah,
Oh my god.
they knew
That is
exactly what they wanted to
insane.
do for that.
Dude,
That's incredible.
that honestly is. I didn't know that. That's sick, dude.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
wild.
Amazing. I love Stars of the Lid too.
Yeah.
That band is out of control.
Oh yeah, dude.
Out of
Classic for
control
sure.
is
Classic for
right.
sure.
We're big on them here on
Yeah.
Craigcast.
Good. Yeah, they are. I mean, every accolade they've gotten, they earned.
Yeah. So I guess like jumping back, I feel like this question probably could have fit in a little better from part of our earlier conversation, but like where does like American Decline fit into like this whole American Dreams picture?
That's a good question too. American Decline is really something I do pretty much for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved extreme music, black metal, power electronics, industrial. At one point I was really into harsh noise. Can't say I listen to that much of it anymore.
It's always that phase
but
that you're into harsh noise, and then like you get into something else, and you're like, I don't know if I can necessarily get back into harsh noise.
yeah, I think like after you hear like Ornette Coleman or Sun Ra, you're like, actually, this is like crazier.
Yeah.
And not that it's like one's well, I mean, I was about to say not that one's better than the other, but yeah, Ornette Coleman and Sun Ra are better than almost anything.
Oh yeah,
so,
for sure. I mean, like you can't even like compare anybody like to Ornette Coleman or Sun Ra. So
yeah, sure.
Even I'll say Orb Tapes, they just reissued their Sun Ra and Pharaoh Sanders performance, and I picked that up along with the Marcia Fisher split because it's like I want to see what they're doing with noise, but also I want this concert that just randomly they're distributing.
Yeah,
because it's gonna be so good.
Yeah, I need to pick that up too. Yeah, Orb Tapes is great. Like they put some really weird shit out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, American Decline is like pretty much like, I mean, yeah, I run it for fun. I'm not trying to like work press for it. I'm not trying to like distribute it through Red Eye. I'm just trying to like drop these tapes when they come out, and I'm trying to release some albums, but it's all like very limited runs. Like the vinyl is usually 200 to 250 copies. Tapes are like 75 copies. I drop them in a batch, and most of them all go that day. And that's nice. Like that's the level of effort I want to put into this thing. I don't want to do the other stuff.
Yeah.
With American Dreams, I mean, it's not a very sexy thing to say, but like there is a lot of like what is, career in it. And
Yeah.
so there's like working with distribution, like working with, press agents,
Mhm.
working with touring agents, working with all this stuff. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's probably the least fun aspect of releasing music, but it does feel good at the end of the day to like give artists the chance to, if they want, there's, people don't have to, I don't force anyone to like work with a press agent.
Yeah.
We have the capacity to do it ourselves, but some people really want to work with a publicist. And so then it's like, okay, well, I will help you, because I'll like pay for this publicist. And giving artists that platform, and hopefully like the royalties too. Like my deal is always split profits 50-50 after the cost of the whole thing is back, very typical. But like hopefully they get paid for the royalties too. Like,
Yeah.
we're all just trying to do the best possible. And
Yeah. So
I just help with those expectations.
So I know you were saying that like American Dreams, there's more of like a career aspect to it, and that's kind of like more or less, I guess, like your livelihood, would you say?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah. So I guess like is American Decline sort of like you were involved in like, hardcore and like noise back in the day. Is that like is it coming from like a desire of like still wanting to be part of that aspect of like DIY?
Well, I think they're both like very DIY.
Yeah,
It's still like basically like for designing stuff, it's still
it's still about the same.
all
Yeah,
ground
same
level.
process.
It's
Yeah,
like I've got my hands on everything.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
there are these other components like distribution and, publicists that, you probably are not DIY. But other than that, the actual music, the actual like doing of selling these things and mailing them out,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty DIY.
Yeah,
And so, and the ethos is there either way. Like, but the black metal thing, I, I don't see one as more DIY than the other, but I do see the difference in how much effort I'm putting into these things.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, like, I don't want to take the time to do a crazy press campaign
yeah.
for black metal.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
have I don't have a huge stake in that community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just want to have fun with it, and I
Yeah.
want to like do a good job for the artist. But at the end of the day, like, I don't have the time or bandwidth
American
to
Dreams is still the
like
priority.
seriously promote that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get to the point with it, I don't think, where it is like, you know, part of, I mean, I make money from it.
Yeah.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
guess in that sense, there are career elements, but I don't want to have to deal with like touring agents. I don't want to have to deal
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
all this extra stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like for fun at that point, like still an offshoot of American Dreams, but also just more for fun than if you're releasing a Clarice record or something. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, Claire is a dream. She's like one of my best friends,
Yeah.
and we text all day, every day,
Yeah.
like mostly about bullshit, but we also do talk some business sometimes, believe
Yeah.
it or not.
And he has a sub label also on American Dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Claire, like I said, Claire's so great. I love her, and we work super well together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak highly enough about Claire. Her music's great. She's one of the nicest people ever. She works hard as fuck.
Oh yeah. Hardest working person in this DIY experimental scene for sure.
Yeah, she's incomparable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just like, yeah, let's do this thing. Like, we're both gonna work our asses off.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have fun doing it. So
Yeah. That's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
great. I mean, I love to work, you know.
Yeah.
If what's fun for me is like releasing black metal tapes and doing mail order for them, then I've got issues. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
clearly have like something misfiring in
Yeah.
my brain a little bit. Like I should be playing basketball, or I should be like, I don't know, like learning how to make a new recipe,
Yeah.
but instead I'm like doing the exact same thing I do for work, but with another style of music.
Yeah.
So, um, so I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's fine. I'll manage.
Yeah. So I guess like switching back to I guess like American Dreams a little bit. This is kind of just like a for fun question, but I saw that your domain was .zone. So why did you go with .zone?
Oh, com was not available.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and though I'm 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 building a new website right now, and I registered AmericanDreamsRecords.com and American Dream Records DreamsRecords.zone
Okay.
because I don't want to lose that now that I
Yeah.
have it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
just always thought zone was like kind of funny stoner language,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
getting getting some good zones. But I like it. Like I like science fiction too. So there's like there's a through line between those things. And now
Yeah.
that I'm
Yeah,
used to the zone, I don't want to lose the zone.
I remember because the Hosmo guys, they always Max loves to use zone, and then I ended
Yes,
up
he
just started
does.
using that. And part of it was, again, it was like, yeah, this is the perfect kind of language for not all the music they're doing, but then a lot of post punk I'd listen to, there's a very particular kind of the way it's recorded or some of the tonality and stuff. I'm like,
Mhm.
this is zone music. This sounds like it was made for an 8-bit video game. It was designed
Yeah,
the way that like a pill track or a suicide track kind of just it sets itself up just with kind of an economy.
Hmm.
That's what's
totally. Man, Suicide. I mean, that is like one of the best bands of all time.
Oh yeah, dude, for sure.
dope band. Again, when we had talked with Brad Rose last week, he though had cited American Dreams because we started getting into a conversation about folk music again and talking about, hey, what's the best in American folk? He gave kind of best in American folk to American Dreams, just said it's the torchbearer for an unclassifiable, but you know it when you see it kind of strain. And we've also talked with Andrew Weathers, who looks at folk from a
Oh,
genreless perspective. And
Yeah.
again, it's really music that is extrapolated by the tensions and paces of the modern kind of moment, the technologies you have in front of you, the region you live in. So maybe based on all of this little stuff, these tidbits we're throwing at, how would you consider yourself to be a folk musician, especially in the release you have on Unifactor tapes and your release from last year?
oh, that is a great question. Oh man, that's a good one. Um, I'm so excited to talk about folk music
Oh yeah.
because for a long time, because for many things. Number one, the first kind of music I ever made what is traditionally known as folk music.
Oh,
So
that's
acoustic
sick.
guitar music with singing on top of it. Um, and all so many of my compositions and music comes from that. But my last album, Sand Like Stardust, was kind of a meditation on folk and country music. And, country music is basically folk too. And, blues music is folk music because folk, as everyone who knows about music beyond just a cursory glance
Hmm.
knows, folk goes beyond like the instrumentation. It's
Yeah.
about who is making the music,
Hmm.
how is it being made, and the essence of folk is democratization.
Hmm.
And so it's being able to like create the maximum with the minimum ideally.
Hmm.
It's like soccer. Soccer, everyone can play soccer
Yeah.
because you can make a goalpost between two trees
Hmm.
and you just need a ball other than that. Or like
Hmm.
running. Um, and with the advent of personal computers and you know smaller personal computers that fit in our pocket, folk has changed. We all now have these tools that are democratized that aren't just acoustic instruments. And so a lot of what defined folk through acoustic instruments early on, now you can see a lot of times in like electronics and experimental music. Like, you know, Claire, for instance, she could conceively craft a set out of like the objects in a room, and it would still be a Claire Rousey set. You know? And it is at that point it's folk music. And then there's, you know, all sorts of things like that. There's performance art. Performance art is folk music, like, because it's even more than folk music sometimes, because there can be this added component of like props that might be made by hand. So I think like when you are using these like easy to, not necessarily, easy to come by tools, and you're doing it in this way that keeps your community in mind, I think you're tapping into folk music. And I do think that that ethos is in every release I've done. And it's obviously very important in my own music. I think it's important in everything in the label. The other thing that's very important is like the Zen mind, which is about, I guess, learning to take the good with the bad in some ways, and trying to deal with impermanence. And also something that I want to, you know, get better at myself is being compassionate in everything I do. And it's a lifelong practice. And, you know, I slip. Like sometimes I get mad about stuff. Sometimes I say things I wish I could take back, but you know, I am trying, and it's conscientious. And that is something that I also want to exist in all the music, even the angry music. Like if you take Ono's Red Summer, like it is angry, it is disturbing. I mean, some of those lyrics are more abrasive than anything in power electronics or black metal. Like seriously, it makes power electronics look like a Dr. Seuss book. But but it is in the pursuit of making things better for everyone else through historical literacy, I would say. And Travis would say the same thing. It's why he like will preempt a lot of his words with years. It's so that people who are listening can look it up easily and ascertain that, oh, this is real shit. Like, and I'm going to take this dive into things that, you know, my country doesn't want me to know, because there's a lot of things that, not just the US, but, you know, we are in the US. And so it's an easy through line to make. But, you know, there's a lot of things that Eurocentric Western, quote unquote, Western civilizations don't want people to know. They don't want you to know that the first stock ever traded was African slaves. They don't want you to know all sorts of things. They don't, you know, there's an enforced ignorance that is being pushed upon so many people, especially people of color, of course, and impoverished people. And so a lot of like what we do through that project is trying to break those barriers down, and establish a community in that way. I don't know if I mean, there's a lot of folk music in Ono too, especially because gospel and blues and country are all very important in the Ono formula, although electronics are also very important. And if you see P. Michael play a show, he will have an entire table of very much non-folk music instruments ready to go. But it's in the formula for sure. And so I think that's definitely a part of everything. As well as like also proper archiving, which I think is pretty instrumental in like understanding folk. If it weren't for the archival process, we wouldn't know about so many songs from the South. Or if Shirley Collins and Alan Lomax hadn't been taking that journey, they wouldn't have been able to like draw the comparison between like old English songs and what they were hearing there, and like create this historical tapestry through that. And that's a really cool thing, and it's an important thing too, like seeing how all of this stuff is connected. So all of that is definitely in the label and in my work as well.
I guess I want to go just a little bit deeper into your release for Unifactor that did come out of 2020, at least some recordings that you were doing at the time. And I guess I'm just curious about the instrumentation or the pacing of these 6 pieces, because in the time I've listened to it, I've noticed that at least both sides are ended with probably the most elaborate pieces that combine a bit of your synth elements with, though, what I guess Thomas and I are both slightly agreeing on Hank Williams style slide guitar. So could you tell us though about the pacing of this cassette and how you at least decided to kind of organize these 6 pieces?
Yeah, I can. Let me pull up it up because I need to look a little bit.
Also, this is coming out on Unifactor, which is the label that Jason Gertz of Cloud Nothings runs. One of your acts signed the Baldy Gertz duo, or at least one of their releases.
And Jason's got a new record in his trio, the Garish Powers Rollin.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow, that's sick.
Getting announced on next Tuesday, a week from today. Wednesday. Next Wednesday. It's getting
and is it for American Dreams on cassette?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
An LP.
This is the saddest news I've heard all day, but thank you for telling me ahead of time. I will be able to process this.
It's LP and CD.
I'm going to get the CD.
Yeah, you can get a CD, man.
There you go.
Absolutely. Because Powers Rollin', what they're doing right now, also some of the most important American folk music.
Oh, man. What a great project. And what nice people. It's been really nice getting to work with Jen and Matt. I've known Jason for longer, we became friends actually like a few days before everything shut down. I was at his house picking up my friend Austin as we were driving to Pittsburgh to play a show together.
Oh, wow.
And we just got along really well right away. And then Jason asked me to put out something, and I was like, okay. And at the time I had like finished my album Sound Like Stardust, so I had like already gone through the migration from like straight Eurorack modular synthesizer to like music that was experimental, but that had acoustic elements to it, lap steel guitar. But I also wanted, at first, this was going to be like straight songs. And I wrote a lot of demos for that. But I was like, no, I want to flesh these out. And like for the deadline Jason's given me, I don't have enough time for that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make these predominantly instrumental songs then. And I'm going to get weird with them. But the other thing too is like, and it says this in the notes, but like I was extremely depressed at this time. Like for like 2 weeks could basically not get out of bed, just like completely obsessed with death Couldn't think about anything else. Terrified, anxious, scared, worst I've ever felt. And so I was like learning about Zen at the time that I was writing and recording, in time right before I started writing and recording this, basically, which was started in September of 2020, the bad depression. You know, I went to a psychiatrist and general practitioner, basically, because I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, and I had gone to a psychiatrist before, and like part of what sprung this on was they gave me a new medication, which was an anti-seizure medication. And it just like wrecked me. It just wrecked me. And they, you know, I just had one too many experiences of being prescribed the wrong thing with that psychiatrist. And I was like, fuck this, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not a guinea pig. Like, you know, I could talk for an hour about the pitfalls of psychopharmacology, but I'm not going to. But, you know, I just had it with feeling like a lab experiment. I had it with like, the only way I would know whether this stuff worked is if I, you know, went through with it. And all the times I tried something, it was bad. You know, and I was like, I'm fucking done with this. Like, I don't want to like work with this person anymore. So that was just one too many times. So I went to another person, and I went to a general practitioner for the physician, you know, for a physical checkup. He was like, well, you're in great health. And I was telling him about like this depression. I was like, man, this is kicking my ass. And he was like, you know, you're just gonna have to get through it. And he was like, what I would recommend for you to do, and best advice I've ever been given. And this guy knew his shit. And it was great because this is not what a regular physician would say. He would say, make music every day. And he said, force yourself to get back into it. And sure enough, like I, you know, it wasn't all of a sudden, but like over the next month, I was slowly having this fog lifted. And I was like creating these recordings and learning about Zen at the same time. So like, as you can tell from all the titles, like it's about life and death. It's about trying to learn that death doesn't need to be an enemy. And so yeah, there's a lot of like grasping the eternal and the absence of everything, and like trying to not be afraid anymore. And so like this idea, like, what is a ghost? Is it really me? Like, like coming to terms with the fact that like things are in flux always. At some point, like I won't be this cohesive collection of atoms, but the atoms will still be here. They'll just be spread to other places. And it's like grasping that you never really die. You know, you just go somewhere else. You just transmute. And between that and like just being okay that I wouldn't at some point be thinking about things anymore. I wouldn't be able to do things. And like going through and making my peace with all of the things that I would no longer be able to do at that later point. That's what the whole thing is about. And so I wanted to make music that had elements that could shock you, but that also could be reassuring. And the last two songs are really like the
If
ones that are supposed to like get you to that point. And the last song, some of the titles could be read as being like suicidal almost, but they're not. They're like they're just imploring you to not be scared anymore. So that's the why of the whole thing.
No, I like you mentioned though the last two, because also The Void is Boundless is the one track that's going through my head. It's really, I think, your biggest synth number of just a very jittery kind of loop that's going on. It reminded me, a couple of the tracks really did remind me at the start of COVID because UCSB was right on the beach and it could get really windy. And on one of those first days pre-lockdown, when it was like, okay, what the hell is going to happen? Where are we going? And I walked on the beach in probably 20-mile wind and listened to a drone tape. I was like, yeah, we're just going to march through it.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to march through this. And getting a good sense of that, especially with there's a really lovely low end to this.
Yeah.
I did not notice it on a couple listens until I put it on a better tape player. And I'm like, holy crap. Get the bass on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that stuff. It's the image I had in mind while I was writing that was like the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey, where you're like going through the passage. It's supposed to be like that, pretty much.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like perseverance, like you said too. Like drone tape, 20-mile-per-hour wind, live through it.
That is probably one of the most like intentional like album descriptions I've ever heard. Like that is just like so amazing, and I feel like makes the record sound like that much better. Like I don't know, like hearing that is almost like one of those like what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, I don't know, when you get like a token or something like with your record, it's like that's not necessarily like something that like you get physically with your record, but just like hearing that and then listening to that, it's like, wow, this is like just like makes the experience like so much more listening back to it. I don't know, I think that's really cool.
So I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk through the reality of that release.
Oh yeah, thanks for
there's only so much that you can, this is what came out of the worst depressive episode of my life. Like, that's what it says on the tape.
Yeah,
there's a lot more than that.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say thanks for opening up about that with us. I feel like that's very heavy, and you definitely didn't need to, but you chose to, which I think is like really special. And I just want to say thank you for talking about that for us.
You're both very welcome.
Yeah,
it was great.
So, anyways, I guess that just about does it for all the questions we had related to your work. We have some listener questions, unless you had anything else you wanted to ask, Maddie.
I do not. I just want to tell Jordan that the listener questions are, they come from all over.
Yeah. They're not as like serious or anything. They're kind of just like, they're all over the place. Just people on Instagram and stuff. So you may know you may know some of them, some of the people that ask these questions. But yeah. So are you ready? Should we dive into it?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. So this one is, what is it like being a reformed noise boy?
I wasn't ready for that.
These questions always catch people off guard.
Let
me see if we got any more, by the way.
It's good. I'm glad that noise isn't the entirety of my personality anymore.
Yeah.
But being in the proximity to weirdness and like getting to see all this extreme weirdness for so long was really cool. And like, noise is very formative. And so I obviously would not be where I am without that. I wouldn't be as open-minded. all my best friends came out of that. You know, Claire's a noiser too.
Yeah.
Like just like everyone's a noiser.
Yeah.
Everyone's a noiser at ADR. Even Devin Schaefer. Like Devin
Wow.
Schaefer
I love
is
that.
like, you know, she's done some noise stuff.
That's dope. Can we find that noise stuff?
No, you cannot. but yeah, you know, I mean, Ono is like foundational noise stuff. Eviction obviously is noise. Like, yeah.
I'm just curious. So I know that like I guess like there's a big intersection between punk and hardcore and noise. So did you get into like noise and like power electronics and stuff like specifically from like being in that hardcore scene? Because I know a lot of people that like were into like punk and hardcore that eventually like have like noise projects or like got into like noise type stuff.
Probably, yeah. I just really like, especially when I got sober,
Hmm.
I was very interested in extreme experiences.
Yeah.
And so like hearing really loud, really abrasive stuff
Mm.
was like a way to, you know, it's kind of like doing drugs or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
drinking or something. And so like that was you know, the allure of that. But it was the same with like hardcore or like horror movies or like,
Hmm.
you know, whatever. I just like wanted to see something that like really would hit me
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse, you know, I'm not the same person that was into like extremity back
Hmm.
that now as I was back then. You know, I have a dog, it's a beagle, I have a wife. um you know, I though I was still like running a lot and stuff back then,
Yeah.
but so I was like, you know, I'll always be a noise jock, but you know, getting like my feet wet and getting this sort of palette of extremity was important in some ways too. Yeah.
So I guess we'll jump into another one. So this one is top 3 sparkling water flavors and respective brands.
Yeah,
Uh,
I was curious about this one as well. You know, if you're coming off of drugs and you switch into sparkling water, it's so easy to chain drink them. What's your
yeah,
favorite?
that's true. Number one's Topo Chico.
You can't go wrong, dude. Topo Chico's the best.
Which flavor? Is it a flavored one with citric acid or is it just regular?
Number one is regular.
It's great in a
Number
glass bottle, and you wake up in the middle of the night and you just drink from it. It's so sparkles.
number two is also Topo Chico, and it is with lime.
Oh, so good.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And number three is oh what's it called? It's oh, Badwa.
Whoa, we don't even have Boudoir.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's really good. Um it's you know, you can get it in Europe a lot. My wife's French, and so we go and visit her family
Oh,
a
okay,
lot.
that's sick.
They have
Yeah.
it all the time there, and I love it. Love it.
I'll have to look out for that one if I ever go someplace that's European, I guess. I don't know.
They have it in the store sometimes here too,
Okay.
but it's a little more expensive in the US, I think, because they have to import it.
Yeah, yeah. So we have a little grip of questions from Patrick Shirishi. So
You may have put one of his albums out, or two of them.
yeah,
Yeah,
you may or may
Patrick
not know
is
him.
the first person who has been on all three labels.
Oh wow,
Oh,
really? That's sick.
Yeah. He has an album coming out in November on American Dreams. He's on
Oh,
one of the
so
tapes
dope.
with Claire, and his project Visions of Yokai is on American Decline.
that's great
Dope.
tape with Claire. And I need to get that American Decline tape.
I'm stoked to see this American Dreams tape or record. I'm sure it's gonna come out on, but
It's really, really good.
so Patrick wants to know, do you like vanilla or chocolate frosties from Wendy's?
Chocolate.
Why?
The taste.
So are you like one of those dudes that dips your fries into the chocolate frosty?
Oh, no, I'm not.
Okay. Because I know that's a big thing that people like to do. It's like that sweet and savory type deal, you know?
Maybe I'll try it out. I mean, I guess I could be. I've never done it.
Oh, real? Oh, yeah, dude, you should try it out. That's a big thing.
Oh,
Yeah, I was so weirded out by it when my friend was like, "You ever do this?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "Yeah, it's a big thing. Everybody does it." And I was like, "Okay, it's not bad, honestly." Um,
I'll try it out.
so here's another one. Rick or Morty?
Is Rick the scientist?
I believe so. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I do love science, so Rick.
There it is, dude. Shout out
There we
Rick.
go. Great.
Shout out Rick. Here is another one. I think this is from Patrick too. So what is your favorite part about running a label? We kind of already chatted about it, but
Well, it's just making friends.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
I love that.
It's just making friends, and yeah, it's just being friends and like just getting to touch all these amazing people. Yeah,
That's
just like
amazing.
it just is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Yeah.
Here's another. Okay, is there a song that has brought you to tears in a good way? And what's the song? I believe that was from Devin Schaefer.
Oh, yes, there is. There are a few. One, which isn't necessarily in a good way, is Harry Chapin's Cat in the Cradle. Cat's
Okay.
Cradle,
Oh yeah.
which is about father and son,
Mm-hmm.
and growing up. And I have a pretty complex relationship to all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that song really really does it to me. Father and Son by Cat Stevens also is one like that.
Yeah.
And then in a good way, probably well, it's always in this like sort of sickly sweet way, I guess. But Atmosphere is trying to no, it's always coming back home to you.
Mm.
By Atmosphere, it's the last song
Sick.
on Seven's Travels.
Yeah.
And it's just basically a song about a day in Slug's life. And then at the end he gets back to his house and he says what is it? The clouds ran away, opened up the sky, and one by one I watched every constellation die, and there I was, frozen, standing in my front yard, face to face, eye to eye, staring at the last star. I couldn't know, walked all the way home to find that you weren't here. I was still all alone. And it just fucks me up. Like the imagery of like the constellations dying.
Yeah.
It's just really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then 9-Inch Nails Hurt.
Oh, for certain on that one.
Yeah,
I listened
classic.
to that on flights to Virginia
Oh,
on a
yeah.
video pod.
Also, Jane's Addiction, Jane Says, just because that's like it's probably the best song about addiction ever.
Yeah.
I might have to go the way of Alice in Chains' Rooster. Which
yeah.
That's a real twofer. You get a Vietnam song with the song about his addiction.
Yeah.
But God, those first two Jane's Addiction albums, oh my God.
I guess I would have to say if I was gonna pick one, I don't know, American Football, honestly. Some of the stuff they talk about is just like so heavy, dude. And I'm just like, a lot of emo music I feel like is just like, dude, who hurt you? You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of times I'll just be sitting there. If it's like late at night, usually that's when it hits me. I'll just be sitting there like not doing anything, especially if I'm listening to like the last couple songs of American football. I'm just like, oh my God, dude, can't take this, you know? Anyways, I guess we'll move on to some more questions. I'm gonna ask these real fast because I haven't written them down and my phone is about to die. So this one says, "Who is your favorite guitarist and why is it John Fahey?"
That was from Eli.
Yeah.
Yes, why is it?
That caught me off guard. Actually, my favorite guitarist might be Billy Corgan.
Whoa.
Oh wow, okay.
I really like Billy Corgan.
Do you really vibe with his kind of modus operandus of like, gotta get on top, gotta do it, gotta throw down the overdubs?
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love obviously everything through Melancholy is like Melancholy and Smash and Siamese Dream are probably both in my like top 25 albums ever.
Oh wow. That's sick.
I just love his guitar playing so much. Yeah, I just can't get enough of it.
Yeah. So sorry.
There's a lot of other guitar players I like too. I mean, like both the guys in Sun, I love as well. And they're not like they probably can shred, but Sun isn't a shredding band. And then like Yasmin Williams, I love on guitar. Eli is probably one of my favorite guitarists ever.
Shout out Eli.
Yeah, I mean, I love Eli's music. He is so impressive too.
Yeah, Eli's great. Shout out Eli. Yeah. Thank you for asking those questions, Eli. Actually, we have one more from Eli too. So this one is thoughts on the intersection of music and politics / music and literature and how it informs your practice.
Oh, that's a very Eli question. Yeah, I mean, music and politics and music and literature are both like very much tethered. It's all tethered to me. Like, and I guess I would have to say it begins because I see music as a form of storytelling. And before being a musician or a label owner or a writer, for all of that, what I am is a storyteller. And so it's funny actually that like I haven't mentioned this yet, but yeah, I mean like that is how I identify, like being a storyteller, being at least one who is sharing stories through their own mouth and also through other vehicles. And there is obviously a responsibility to share the right stories when you're doing that. And so politics is obviously involved in that. But I would say beyond politics, if you're grappling with anything that touches upon inequalities or prejudices or mistreatment, then you need to know your facts.
Yeah.
And so much of my political leaning, which is pretty far left, comes from just knowing history and like science. And so I don't like I don't necessarily think that like I have this sort of confirmation bias. I just like, how could you, I read and imbibe stories from other people, and at the end, like, and maybe it's because I don't know why people are more empathetic than others, but I have made the conscientious choice that I don't want to add to the suffering of people. And so I have to consider politics in everything that I do. I have to consider history in everything I do. And that includes music, of course. With literature, it's also storytelling, and there's this great quote from Travis. We always talk about this when he was like in graduate school at Northwestern. He had this teacher who said to him, you know, all reality is fiction. And, you know, you can make that claim either way. All fiction is reality, all reality is fiction. It's hard to imagine a story if it hasn't happened before, you know, and even if something is fictional, what is it that makes it unreal? Is it because it only exists in these pages? Like, is it the confines of this thing? But fiction, as well as the actual written word itself, are very much intertwined with my music, especially on the album that I'm making recently, you know, these days, which is actually somewhat nearing completion. Words, and specifically poetry, are very much at the center of the whole thing, which is the first time that I've really done music under my own name where that is the case. But yeah, I've been like writing a lot of poetry, all, you know, that pretty much also deals with death, states of being, and actually just general outlook, like trying to manage people who think of things in a different way. And you know, some of those poems are just answers I wish I had said to them but didn't. It's like, okay, I got the right response now, I'm gonna make it a song. But yeah, you know, literature is super tied up with this new one.
Yeah,
I think literature was very tied up with Sand Like Stardust, because that is obviously an album that was about like meditating on the cowboy mythos and the mythology of the American West, and like all of its, you know, bruises and injuries and ugliness, and also its beauty. And so literature is obviously very central to that as well. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's all the same thing. Like, it's all storytelling. So
I believe this next one is from Doom Trip Records. Yeah.
Zach.
Yeah, Zach. I'm not sure their name, but
World
okay,
of
Zach.
Echo.
And Zach wants to know, how are you so cool?
I don't think I'm cool, but that's nice to hear.
It's the Zen.
I don't know.
It's the Zen. It's because you're Zen. I would say.
Suppose that must be it. No, I don't know. I just I try to just be real now. You know, I spent a lot of time trying to be something I'm not.
Yeah.
And now I don't have time to do that. So I have just made peace with my nerdiness and fears. And I also don't really know how to lie. And I don't have a capacity to respond to things like elegance sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I just kind of
you just keep it real. You just tell people
I guess
straight
I
up.
keep it real.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to do. I never have. Sometimes it has gotten me into trouble, but I think by and large it's a good thing.
Yeah, there it is, dude. Keep it real. I love that. That's amazing. Anyways, so I think that's just about it with our fan questions. Let me check. Yeah, I think that's just about it with our fan questions here, Jordan. Where can people keep up with all things Jordan Reyes?
Just on the American Dreams Bandcamp is a good one. I have a website, of course, but it's going to be americandreamsrecords.com. And then I guess my Instagram, which is Jordan_Reyes.
Cool.
And Twitter, JPReyes90.
Tight.
Yeah.
There it is. So, all right, Jordan, we actually have one more question before we send you on your way. It's kind of a big one. It's the biggest one of the show. Are you ready for it?
Born ready.
Okay, Maddie, do you want to hit him with it?
I'll go for it. So again, Jordan, you're, day-to-day affairs here at American Dreams HQ, and you're just packing up a vinyl and you're opening up a new box of mailers, and a rat just jumps out of that box of mailers. Is it going to jump into your mouth, head or butt? And why is it going to do that?
Probably head, because that's just the motion of a jump.
Yeah. I could see that, yeah.
I think it would be hard for a rat's butt to be in my mouth if it were jumping.
Unless it fell, maybe. I don't know. Like if it was like on the ceiling or something and then falls down in your mouth. You're like, oh my God. And just
like, oh my God.
Yeah, like, oh my God. And straight into your mouth.
Like, oh my God. That butt.
Yeah.
Would you prefer though if the rat though, jumped butt first instead of head first here in this scenario you've chosen for yourself? Jordan, we've stumped you.
I suppose butt.
Yeah. Why though? Why? Are you afraid of the teeth? Like what is it?
I'm afraid of the teeth.
Yeah, see, the teeth are a little scary. Rat teeth don't sound too pleasant in the mouth. And for some reason...
and there's a lot of like soft tissues in the mouth too.
Yes.
It can really do some damage in there.
For sure, dude.
I mean, a rat's butt could also do damage, but it seems like it would be less long-term.
Yeah, less long-term. I feel like it'd be easier to get out. And I feel like if a rat fell in butt first, it'd be less likely to, I don't know, go forward. I mean, it'd be more likely to go forward, so it'll just fall out, I feel like. Whereas if it's going if it's going head first, it might just be like, I don't know, you know how they used to use like rats for like medieval torture techniques? They would just put like a bucket over the rat on somebody and it would just burrow through them.
Do I ever?
So maybe it would do, I don't know, maybe do the same thing.
Yeah, like that episode of South Park.
Yeah.
We don't want that.
Yeah, we don't want to be
that
subject
guy.
to medieval torture via rat. So
no, just give me the ass.
Anyways, I think that's all we have for today, Jordan. Thanks again to everybody for tuning into TBD on KCSB FM 91.9 every Sunday 4 to 6 p.m. and NetNet Radio every Saturday 4 p.m. This is Jordan Reyes. Thanks again for being on the show, Jordan.
You bet.